and welcome. This is your host, Esma. I will be hosting today's session with an exciting lineup of guest speakers. FEMYSOnow is a live stream and podcast series by FEMYSO. We will be live on both YouTube and Facebook. So FEMYSO is a forum of European Muslim youth and student organizations, and 2021 marks our 25th anniversary. As you all know, it has been more than a year since the COVID-19 outbreak, and without doubt, our daily lives have been changed extraordinarily. Social isolation, losing our loved ones, economic instability, and increasing inequality are only a few on the list of challenges that we are facing globally. A very important consequence of the pandemic has been its negative impact on our mental health. Now, more than ever, we understand how important it is to show solidarity and take care of the most vulnerable in our society. And that is what these two amazing young activists are aiming to do with their project called Outbreak of Generosity. Let me introduce you my dear guests. So I know them already. We have Hamda Mohammed joining us from the UK. She's a recent law graduate who has been widely involved in organizing local and EU-wide campaigns whilst working for numerous organizations. She's passionate about youth development and societal change. She currently works in media and public relations and is the social media manager of the Outbreak of Generosity campaign. On the other side, we have Enes Cherigui. He is joining us from Sweden. He has been actively engaged in youth sponsorship, interreligious work, and trainings and services for Muslim youth and others in Gothenburg. He's working for inclusiveness for youth in decision-making in the Gothenburg City Council. And Enes is the event coordinator of the Outbreak of Generosity campaign. Welcome to both of you. I hope you're doing well.
We're doing well. I'm speaking for Enes on this point. I'm doing well. Jazakallah khair.
You, Enes?
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good evening. I'm doing well too. Feeling rejuvenated by this fantastic lineup of guests and speakers. So.
All right. That means that I can immediately start posing a question there. So, of course, we're here to talk about the Outbreak of Generosity campaign. Tell the audience maybe how everything started.
Oh, I love this story on how it started. Sort of Nurhan, who's leading our Outbreak of Generosity, had the amazing idea just to gather everyone, because we all knew each other beforehand, to sort of create a campaign to ensure that everyone is rejuvenated, sort of is able to give back to the frontline health workers, and also just to sort of show a little bit of generosity and a little bit of spirit. So a load of us came together, did a 24-hour thing. It wouldn't be FEMYSO if we didn't do an all-nighter. And we were able to sort of create this campaign in such a short period of time, that it is what it is today. This amazing campaign that's sort of led by young people all across Europe with the passion to sort of give back.
All right. And recently, Outbreak of Generosity appeared back on our social media platforms while scrolling. What is the Outbreak of Generosity team doing at the moment?
Okay, so Enes, go for it. Take it.
I'll try at least. Yeah, why a relaunch to begin with? Well, first and foremost, as Hamda mentioned, it was such a successful campaign that managed to gather youth all across Europe and inspire them to provide support to vulnerable people and each other in a safe manner. First and foremost, it's to capitalize on the great response that we received from this campaign across institutions, grassroots level, and even individuals that gain a lot of new relations with people from all across Europe, but also gain a lot of insight maybe about themselves and their capacity to provide for vulnerable people. So that's the first thing, to capitalize on the response. But the second thing is to tackle an issue that has come up as a result of the pandemic, which is decreased mental health across the globe, but especially amongst youth and people of vulnerable background and immigrant background as such. So we saw a need of providing and gathering together to provide tools in order to tackle these issues centered around mental health. That's basically it. Yeah.
All right. I actually want you to ask, maybe for us being in the middle of the struggle, the answer to this question might seem obvious, but I still want to pose it there, maybe to underline the importance. Why mental health, and why a focus on young people?
I think mental health is such a crucial element to everyday society, sort of the way that everyone functions, the way that we sort of have relationships with our family, our friends, people we work with. And if we don't have a good mental health foundation, we aren't able to sort of do what we can in society. And I think COVID-19 has really impacted quite a lot of people, especially young people, because it's sort of taken us out of the social environments that we're sort of used to, and being able to socialize with friends, sort of hug and have that intimacy with like friends and family. That's all been sort of taken away. And I think especially in the UK, with young people going back to university and being in accommodations, that loneliness factor, that fact of being so isolated, and that really has a detriment on mental health. And I think this campaign is so essential because it means it's young people caring about other young people and their mental health. It's not us saying like, we're here and you guys can sort of deserve this, but we're working with experienced practitioners in psychology, in the mental health field, to sort of ensure that our messaging, anything that sort of gets put out on our social media, isn't being detrimental to people's mental health, but rather giving them the tools, like Anna said. It's making sure that they have that listening ear, it's that support, and it's all done by young people for young people.
All right. So you also mentioned that, like, you underlined the fact that there is an ask, like a request from young people, of course, and you as a volunteering team are trying to tackle this. But before we go into what you're exactly doing, I want to ask your opinion on this question. Like, do you think that mental health, when it comes to youth in particular, is a topic that has been neglected, maybe by other actors in our society?
It has. Anna's come in again.
Definitely. I think it's a straightforward answer. We see that it is always the vulnerable segments or parts of society that suffers the most when a calamity happens or befalls a community. And youth are less resilient than adults in general. They haven't the same experience in life. Growing up in a society has its challenges. We all know that bullying is something that is experienced by mostly youth. So definitely in general, youth have been left out from the discussion. But at the same time, I would like to raise a couple of initiatives that I was surprised to see, and happily surprised to see. Already there are researchers in universities across Europe writing peer-reviewed and publishing peer-reviewed articles about how the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, has affected youth especially, and highlighting the long-term negative effects of this, and urging decision makers to put this on top of the agenda, because this is one of the challenges of our lifetime. Having a pandemic that has led to a worldwide lockdown and restrictions. We haven't seen this in maybe 100 years since the Spanish flu. So it is detrimental that we don't wait for these issues to unravel in the future, and to have kind of a proactive stance. And that's why we've also tried to involve decision makers in the planning of our campaign.
Yeah, I would also echo what Anas has just said, because in the UK anyway, there's been a lot of sort of reports and sort of conversations of young people, how they're feeling left out, like Anas has said, from big decisions, because with COVID, it has impacted young people's mental health, but it's also impacted their employment, as well as sort of their job prospects and their studies. So if you can think about it, it's impacted such a large section of society, because in a couple of years' time, the COVID generation of young people are going to be the next generation, and the gaps in mental health and employment and economics and social is going to come out in a couple of years' time, and no one's really going to know. And it's I think that's the importance of this campaign that we're doing, because it's sort of highlighting just the little bits that we can do, like little acts of goodness can really go a long way. In sort of ensuring that people are helped along their mental health and sort of spiritual and physical well-being. And that's the aim of this campaign.
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah, but your screen is frozen for me.
Yeah, we can see you. You're back.
All right. Talking about the issues, this is one of my personal struggles during the pandemic, not having always the best Wi-Fi. But
is it the same at your house? When someone puts on the microwave, everything freezes as well? Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, this is the challenge that I'm facing every day. Then let's say, but. This leads me also what you said, Hamda and Anas. You mentioned that some parts of society are a bit more vulnerable as well. So without doubt, everyone is affected by the crisis because it is like a global pandemic. But do you believe that there still is a certain part of society who needs this special attention?
It's a good question. I mean, there isn't one section of society that deserves more help than another section, but I feel like if you are a policymaker or sort of like a leader in sort of government or wherever, and you're sort of neglecting the next generation, then that is a section of society that really did help. Because I think right now, rightfully so, people who have underlying health conditions, who are sort of more prone to the pandemic, are getting that help. But if you're sort of not if you're not spreading your eggs, if you will, then what you're going to do is you're going to create more cracks in the long run, just because you are assuming that certain section of society are okay and they don't need the help. For example, like in the UK, children with special needs have been neglected in schools. Sort of like people who have disabilities have been neglected because of the pandemic. Cancer patients have been neglected because of the pandemic. I mean, each section deserves its rightful place in society, and its rightful policies need to be implemented. So it's a challenging question.
Yeah, I think that maybe this question was a bit also out of my own experience here in Brussels. I've noticed that like you have people with a lower social background, and they are in a certain way when it comes to some aspects maybe a bit more vulnerable, as they were already struggling. Then the pandemic comes, and you see that the mental health, like you can't go outside, you only have the parks, the public spaces, and sometimes there are limitations on those as well. But yeah.
Can I come back on that? Before I come back on that, go for it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I would also argue that people from more socioeconomically challenged backgrounds need to have a certain care directed towards them, because Esmanur now mentioned the people who can't go out and meet people, but they are also, do you call them vital workers in the UK? Here we call them necessary workers. People who occupy positions in society that are absolutely necessary for society to function, such as bus drivers and so on. And they don't have the luxury of keeping a distance all the time to people. Maybe they're transporting hundreds of people per day, and how many of them may or may not be carrying traces of the virus. So imagine being in that position, needing to feed one's family, forced to obviously work so that certain parts of society can still be running, and always have that in their mind. Okay, what if this passenger carries COVID? What if this passenger carries COVID? And that poses a challenge, and certain care and need needs to be directed towards those necessary workers or vital workers.
Exactly, like Anas has said, and what you also touched upon as well, Esmanur. It's like at the start of the pandemic, I don't know about the rest of Europe, but in Britain, we sort of focused heavily on frontline workers being NHS, doctors, nurses, people who are coming directly into contact in hospitals with the COVID. But like Anas has said, it's the bus drivers, it's the delivery people, it's the shop assistants, it's the people in the grocery markets. All these people come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. To begin with, they are on low wage, they cannot afford to be off work. So if like what you have seen over the past year anyway, is that those people in that type of employment are less likely to say that they have it. They have the virus, because they're sort of afraid of the fact that they're going to lose the paycheck. And it creates that gap. It sort of increases the gap between those who had money to begin with and those who do not have money. And that's just like COVID has exacerbated all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I think that these are like important insights that we shouldn't underestimate and keep in mind also when putting up like projects. And that's also what I want to ask you now. Like we've like gotten inside the importance of the topic, but what is the Outbreak of Generosity team planning to do? Like, what is the content that you want to share? Your strategy, maybe in general.
Anas?
Hamda has a great overview here because she's the social media coordinator. I'm responsible for one part. I can share it, and then Hamda can maybe give a better overview. So obviously, as we mentioned, when you're isolated or when you are following restrictions, you have less interactions with people. You can't go to an event because there are no events being organized. So me and my colleague Yusuf in the team, we decided to come up with an idea of an online retreat called Mind the Gap. And it's going to be a multi-round retreat where guests, professionals, obviously, because accuracy is of utmost importance. We're going to bring in people with the know-how and expertise to sort of ground us in and let us understand things about our mental health and how we can improve it. And it's going to be a wonderful team. I don't want to say too much on this episode, but really looking forward to the concept. Mind the Gap is obviously a wordplay. Hamda, being from the UK, knows that when you take the tube and they say next station, Piccadilly Circus, and they say mind the gap. So
Mind the Gap.
Mind the Gap is basically trying to help youth, especially to restore themselves. Yeah. So that's one of the projects that is going on, and Hamda has maybe a better overview.
Yeah, let's not spoil too much, but I think it's good to give the audience already like the sparkles of excitement to look forward to. Yeah,
little flavors. Like Hannah said, I'm sort of leading the social media aspect. So that's all about really celebrating the behind the scenes stuff that sort of Anas and his team and sort of everyone else in the team are doing, sort of in preparation to sort of help people with their mental health, with their spiritual health and their well-being. I mean, the overall aim of the Outbreak of Generosity is to support the well-being of youth throughout the course of COVID-19, however long it stays with us. We're seeking to create a healthy culture of an environment that fosters positive well-being, and providing young people the tools to overcome the challenges posed by COVID-19. So whether that is ensuring that they remain physically healthy, even if they can't go outside. How can you still maintain your physical health indoors? How can you maintain your mental health and your spiritual health? And I would like to stress that this campaign is inclusive, so it doesn't focus on a particular gender, particular race, particular culture, particular religion. It's sort of encompassing everyone and sort of everyone from every background. And as you can see from this particular call, I'm from the UK and this is from Sweden. So what we've really done with COVID, sort of within this pandemic anyway, is utilized online working, and that's really been helpful to us. And in terms of sort of what we have planned on the social media front, it's all about ensuring that we are interacting with our followers. It's ensuring that basically we are that place for people to sort of find information. It's not overly what's it called, jargony, so there's not too many words that people don't understand. And like I said at the beginning, we're working with practitioners. So anything that we do post, any time that we're sort of working with you know, projects and things like that, it's all sort of consulted with people in the mental health field. So it's ensuring that we're not making, you know, people's mental health, physical health, or even well-being worse than it was before COVID-19, but sort of giving them the tools during it. So hopefully, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, there's quite a few interesting things in the works. Just keep an eye out on our social media, Outbreak of Generosity, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I would not be a social media manager if I did not give us a plug.
Indeed, and don't forget to enable the notifications as well, so you know
exactly.
Yes, and also don't forget to ask any questions now or in the coming minutes. I think that Anas and Hamda are really like experts in their field, two very experienced activists also. So this is a good opportunity therefore. I want to ask you, like in our audience, we have many young people, I guess, and it may consist also of activists or activists to be. Could you maybe like give an insight in your team, like the Outbreak of Generosity team? How do you work? Like, how is the structure? Is there anything special or unique to the team?
Oh, I honestly, I can't say. I have the best team, so there's working with the best team possible, subhanallah, in this, and having that collaboration. I think it's because we all know each other and we're also passionate about what we're doing, and so passionate about ensuring that young people get the help that they deserve in their mental health, well-being, and spiritual. Like I said before, I think that is in of itself the best working environment that you can have, as well as ensuring that, you know, we don't get the Zoom fatigue. I think Nurhan, who is our amazing leader, she doesn't like to call herself so, but Nurhan deserves, subhanallah, she's been such an amazing person to work alongside. Even everyone on the team, I don't know, like if we can name them, but yeah, they've been amazing to work with, and it's sort of so diverse in our opinions, our lived experience, our own thoughts, and our sort of capabilities. Like, and he's an experienced activist. I don't know why he's sort of giving half, but it's amazing to work alongside each and every single one of them.
We have a saying in Swedish, ingen nämnd, ingen glömd. It means if no one is mentioned, no one is forgotten. As Hamda said, mashallah, each one brings an element to the team and adds to the team. And obviously everything is connected by the spider in the web, Nurhan, mashallah. What I would like to capitalize on is one of the words that Hamda used, which is fatigue. If there's something that I would like to be taken from this episode, it is that specific word, fatigue. Because obviously when you're running a campaign without really having an end date, you're going to experience fatigue. It is inevitable. You're going to feel that you do not bring as much as other teammates to the team during a certain period of time. But I would like to cite a Sami activist, which is basically indigenous people in northern Sweden when it comes to advocating for the rights of the Sami people. She said, you're obviously going to experience fatigue. There's nothing that you can do to prevent it. It's going to happen sooner or later. Some experience it early on and some experience it as a burnout afterwards. So know when to say no, and have open communication with your teammates. They're going to be more than understanding, especially if you have it in an early stage. No one is going to look down on you or consider you as less of a team member. So yeah.
All right, thank you. Shout outs to every single team member of the Outbreak of Generosity campaign, especially to Nurhan. Maybe she's listening now. So you've mentioned like how careful you are in your team, and that communication is key, especially like virtually. Do you think that there is like mental health is relevant in the context of youth organizations and activism in this particular
100%.
field?
100%. And it's just, I'm going to be stealing that anecdote, Anas, inshallah, I'm going to take it back to the UK, that saying that you just shared. Yeah, so I think with us, when you're young activists, because you're so passionate, because you have that drive, you sort of work through that fatigue to the point that you burn yourself out. And I think the most amazing part of sort of being around other young people that are very aware of mental health, or sort of its impact, if you have sort of a rocky beginning, or sort of you're not feeling very good mentally on a certain day, that you can reach out to your team members, because then they will sort of catch you. Like Anna said, there is no sort of judgment when you're working alongside other people that understand the importance of mental health. Because when you are mentally, physically well, you are then able to sort of put out the work that is deserving, that is sort of, you know, to impact your community. I think it's yeah. Anas, please save me.
No need to be saved. You saved the day. Really, with these comments, it's very imperative that one understands that you're part of a team and that your team members are there for you. Yeah, I don't know what to say, man. It was perfect.
No, I agree.
But if I could at least, you know, add something, if I must, you know, there is a culture in activism in any campaign, any field, that one really wants to give their all and show that one stands out. Sometimes we have invented a lot of sayings, for example, #NoSleep, for example, to highlight the fact, oh, we can work throughout the night and no problem. We can be like King Kong in the morning, no problem. So we need to be also self-aware which culture we want to create in when we do activism. But there's also a reason why we focus on youth, because youth are change makers. Every single major change maker in history has been a youth themselves, or have had youth involved in their work. So that's why there are two sides of this. We need to focus on youth, but we also need to be aware that youth are the most vulnerable when it comes to mental health. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we come back to the sentence you said, like from youth for youth. I think we relate to it, like we're in the struggle like ourselves. So I think that's the main reason why we are there to help each other and show the solidarity that is needed. Thank you, both of you. So during your meetings and also the campaign itself, you use social media, and it has been your main communication tool, of course. Could you maybe tell, like, what are the advantages and limitations to this tool? Have you experience.
Let our social media coordinator start with this one.
I knew you were going to say that. Okay. Bismillah. I mean, subhanallah alim, social media, when used correctly and when used in the right way, is such an impactful and powerful tool, because it means that as young people, we consume information via social media. A lot of young people don't go to traditional media, i.e. newspapers, articles, TV, radio, to sort of get the information. And one way to sort of get to the audience, which is our young people or fellow young people, is through social media. And I'm sort of like a 50-50 person when it comes to social media, but with this particular campaign, it's been so impactful right from the beginning. At the start of the Outbreak of Generosity campaign, it allowed us to reach so far across Europe. We had sort of Albania, we had sort of many European countries that we wouldn't have been able to sort of reach had it not been for social media and the networks of the FEMYSO MOs. So I think sort of Instagram, social, Twitter, Facebook on that aspect is really good at connecting young people, connecting different people who have sort of different lived experiences, different thoughts with one another to sort of experience different cultures, languages, and sort of etiquettes. And I think on the downside is how you use social media. So if you're using social media to sort of, in a way, compare yourself to other people. So sort of as an individual person, as a consumer, you're using social media to sort of compare yourself with other people. You follow people that are not good for your mental health, your spiritual health, or even your physical health, if you will. It can be detrimental on that front. But social media, when used correctly, is just another tool. And I think that's the whole point of Outbreak of Generosity. It's providing young people with the necessary tools that they deserve, so they can make informed decisions for themselves. So then sort of take away little tad bits from our social media that make them happy and smile throughout the day. Nothing to sort of, downplay them. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. These were the wise words of really, like, you see the passion also of your side, Hamda, when it comes to social media. I think there's a lot we can learn from your experiences. Enes, maybe you can tell us something about your experience, like when it comes on a personal level. Do you think that social media throughout this pandemic has been like a positive factor or more challenging sometimes?
Thank you for the question. I mean, I work as a digital marketing manager, so social media is part of my livelihood and daily bread, if you may. So as I look at social media from, try to look at it from a critical point of view. There's a lot of information being gathered by companies on people, and it can be used in a multitude of ways, as Hamda mentioned. So there are two sides of it, but in terms of the pandemic, one has been able to raise issues, social issues, on a whole other level, because people have more time on hand. People spend more time on social media due to different reasons. They are at home, being schooled from home. They are being, we call it in Swedish, permitted from work. They have a leave from work, and they can consume more. And it's been amazing to see how many social issues have come back to the surface after many years of being in the shadow of other events throughout the world. So I definitely think that social media is a powerful tool to make sure that messaging is spread. But there are also specific stories to the Outbreak of Generosity campaign. As maybe you all know, Outbreak of Generosity is lobbied institutions and member organization of FEMYSO. But just the other day, I saw someone from northern Serbia challenging their friends on Insta story to accept the challenge that the team, social media team, posted just a couple of days ago. They are in no way, shape, or form affiliated to any member organization or have been part of the campaign, and it's quite amazing to see that it can reach such a small community in the northern parts of a country in southeastern Europe. So definitely it shows that, yeah, a lot of people can be reached.
Yeah, indeed. Like really, I think one of the important conclusions of today is that social media, it depends on your perspective. As you said, you need to be critical, but it is a blessing if you use it in the right way. Also for young activists, it makes the work you make, like the things you create, accessible to a very wide audience. I think everyone has, like, during the pandemic, an interesting or funny or meaningful anecdote. For example, me calling my grandfather, who is in Turkey, which I couldn't do if there was no social media or FaceTimes that we have with friends. It's really, again, a blessing, a tool we shouldn't underestimate. Then I have been watching your social media platform. I'm a big fan. And so during the relaunch, I noticed the hashtag honor yourself. Can you maybe tell, maybe for the people who missed, to make them a bit jealous, what is this about? What's the importance of honoring yourself?
I'll share how it came about. So myself and the social media team were sort of having a late night sort of meeting session, catch up, whatever you want to call it. And we were sort of talking about how we wanted people to really take care of themselves. So it wasn't us giving them things to do and then them being forced to take it upon themselves to do it. It was more sort of coming up from the fact that when you yourself take the decision and the promise to love, to honor, and to cherish yourself, you're more likely to do something because it's for you. It's for your own benefit. And I think that's what the hashtag is about. It's honor yourself because you are deserving of love, you are deserving of patience, you are deserving of all these things. And that's the hashtag, because we're trying to encourage people to really, in this pandemic, not focus on what everyone else is expecting or what the expectations are externally, but what are your own internal expectations of yourself? Like, what do you promise to do for yourself? That kind of thing. So yeah, that's the hashtag.
Yeah, thank you.
And hashtags have that effect. They can focalize a lot of messaging, a lot of objectives and aims of a campaign into a single sentence or a single word. And that's what, in my opinion, what I feel when I see the hashtag from a campaign perspective. It focalizes all of these messaging points that we have: a healthy mind, a better humankind, making mental health a priority.
Yeah, I think then, me from an audience perspective, I think it really, like, challenges always work, especially during the pandemic. You had a lot of them. It's fun, and at the same time, the fact that you put this focus on yourself, like honoring yourself, makes it collective, but at the same time, really a challenge with yourself. So yeah, I think that's all also gives maybe the audience that urge to click on the follow button on the social media platforms.
Do we have a follow button here or here that we can point to?
I don't think so. Then also something. Do you have areas of focus when it comes to mental health in the campaign?
I
think we do, Hamda. At least I've seen the social media action plan. I can see some areas of focus.
Yeah, so I think with if you're talking specifically about the overall campaign, it's focusing on 3 things: mental health, spiritual, and physical. And within mental, it's sort of ensuring that people are looking after their overall mental health. And on social media, what we've done is we've sort of broken it down. So not to give too much away of what our plans are, but sort of you're focusing on each aspect. So whether people have anxiety, whether people have sort of depression, whether people have sort of low moods, whether people are sort of feeling the pressure, regardless of what the mental health that they're sort of dealing with, we will try and cover that in a way that is one deserving and respectful with our practitioners in sort of the mental health field. So then that way people are able to get that information and that help and the tools that they need. So that's basically on the mental health front, because it's such a broad term. It allows us to be as creative as possible in the way that we deliver the content and deliver the work that, for example, Enes and the rest of the team are doing, because it makes sure that instead of boxing ourselves in one narrow field, we're able to sort of catch everyone who sort of has some sort of mental health, and that everyone is cherished and nurtured under this campaign.
Love it. Love the whole concept. All right. Then something maybe a bit asking your opinion. So you're very open about talking about mental health, mentioning it in your stories. The whole campaign is now, like the relaunch is about mental health. But there seems to be a negative stigma still, like nowadays, surrounding mental health, which might make it a bit difficult to openly speak about it. Do you agree with this? And how could we make sure to change this narrative, if it is there, in your opinion?
Enes, I've been speaking too much.
So you can take over. No worries. It depends on from which perspective you look at this. There can be a stigma felt by the person who experiences deteriorating mental health. They perhaps want to share, but mental health issues do not appear overnight. Usually there is a process, and there might be trauma that highlights certain aspects of the issues. And I, for example, have experienced when someone who has what do you call them, anxiety attacks, have tried to share and open up, and that triggers their anxiety, and it can be overwhelming, obviously, for them, but also for the person that's trying to take in everything. It's difficult to understand someone's struggles over a cup of coffee only. So that's maybe what creates the longevity of the stigma. In general, obviously, there is an understanding that I think in our modern society, your value is connected to your ability to produce, and the less issues that you have, the more the higher position you're elevated to generally in society. So anything that is associated with being less productive and less resilient against tribulations is, I would say, in my personal opinion, is looked down upon. So there are two different stigmas, and one needs to work on both ends, loosening up and giving people tools to work on their mental health issues, and so that they understand that there is no need to be a stigma, and also advocating for a wider acceptance of first and foremost being able to speak and share about their experiences with mental health, and also put it on top of the agenda. Because if you look at, for example, World Health Organization's list on which what things contribute most to positive direction when it comes to public health, it is a feeling of togetherness and solidarity. So that tells me volumes, at least.
Yeah. Is it okay if I add on?
Yeah, of course. The floor is yours.
Like Enes, he touched upon amazing points there, and it's about the fact that when people are sort of dealing with mental health, they put the pressure on themselves because everyone goes through their own personal journeys. And I think society, what has happened is, I mean, in the UK, it's more, there's more of a conversation going on sort of mental health. But what's starting to happen is that because people are starting to open up, a lot of people are not understanding what the nuances of mental health are, the differentiations of like sort of different, what's it called? Like, what's the difference between severe depression and like normal depression, or like what does it look like when someone has an anxiety attack? How can I help them? I think it's all about making sure that society is well educated and well versed on the different types of mental health and the sort of the different conditions people have. And it's also about, when you, like Anna said, if you're in a work environment, it's being able to go to your employer and feel like you can talk about your struggles mentally and not feel like you're going to get laid off. And feel like you're not going to sort of be shunned by the rest of the team because you are unable to sort of cope with things. And I think what we have done, I think because what's happened is mental health has been, in the past couple of years, been something that we're talking about, but it's been going on for decades. People have been struggling with mental health for decades. And it isn't something that's going to get, you know, changed overnight via conversation, like Anna said, over coffee. It's something that's going to take many, many more years, because people, society anyway, has that trauma of not talking about mental health, of shunning people who have mental health conditions. And I know sort of from my own community anyway, like back home in sort of Somalia, people who do have mental health are looked upon so badly. They're treated as barbaric. Sort of, it's you would think, because we're in 2021 and people are sort of, you know, opening up and things like that. But there's many, many ways that we can go. And I think it all, like Anna said, starts with the person dealing with their own mental health being comfortable enough to say, I'm going to say this, and these are my struggles, please help me. And society being able to help.
Yeah, of course. Also, like, we forget that how important it is to take care of ourselves, to be able to like spend time with your community, proceed with the activism, and so on. I really like what I've noticed maybe in my environment here is that the pandemic, of course, has touched us in a very negative way. But that aside, I think that it has helped lots of people to look from another angle to mental health. We speak about it more often. Social media is like full of it, and your campaign, for example, it makes people also confident, at least not shy talking about it. So there again, a big shout out and thank you to your team. I also want to maybe, like, we're going to the end of this interesting conversation. I would like to have your personal experience again, because I know both of you, but I would like to elaborate on this. In what way does the Outbreak of Generosity campaign stand out in your whole journey of activism? I know this is a general question, but up to your interpretation.
For me, I think I'm so early on in my stages of activism that for me this is a highlight, because I haven't had the chance previously to work with such an amazing broad team on a global campaign. Let's call it a global campaign because it can impact, like Anna said, very small communities that we might not have been able to reach because of social media through this campaign. And I think for me, it's the potential that excites me about this campaign. Its potential to sort of really make an impact in young people's lives with the work that we're doing, with the work that the team is doing, because everyone on the team is so passionate about the little things and giving back to each of their communities because we have the different experiences. So for me, this campaign is like a highlight.
Enes.
Mashallah, great insight and point that you made there, Hamda. For me, this is, I think, my first campaign that has been going on without a due date or an end date. We started off last year around 15th of March. It went on almost until midsummer, and now we have a relaunch. And even though we have a timeline, we say maybe in July we're going to have an evaluation process. I still feel that this may be one of those few perpetual campaigns that are always going to be relevant, because, for example, the relaunch, Outbreak of Generosity 2.0, it just makes sense. It makes sense in the wake of a pandemic to highlight the issues of mental health in a broad manner, focusing on the spiritual, mental, and physical aspect. So that's what I really like about this one. This is what makes it stand out. It's relevant and it makes sense.
Yeah, I like from what Hamda said and what you said just now. I think that from my feelings, you could call your team the Outbreak of Generosity family more than just a team. So yeah, no, I really hope that this is only the first of like these amazing experiences in your long journey of activism. So the audience is waiting, has listened, just like to give again this feeling of looking forward. What can the audience expect from you in the upcoming weeks?
In the upcoming weeks, wow.
Maybe not spoil too much.
Yeah, I was like, woo, you're making us like reveal state secrets here. I think one thing for sure is keep an eye on our challenges and our social media. We have amazing things planned on social media with sort of guests and speakers, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. So yeah, just keep an eye out on our social media, try and engage, share, encourage everyone to engage with the challenges and each post that Outbreak of Generosity does produce, because each person that interacts with our page and our content is another person that you're helping to honor themselves using the hashtag there. But yeah.
All right.
I mean, definitely look at this also from a long-term perspective. I have a fig leaf tree that I bought last year, and I really wanted to grow. I want to have a tree in my room, but I cannot force it. It's going to grow in its own pace, and I just need to take care of it. So don't feel like you need to push and always, do everything in that order that we, for example, publish or recommend you to. But look at this, be part of this journey, the journey that makes sense.
All right. Beautiful messages. Is there any last advice or message or insight that you want to give to the audience before we have to end, unfortunately?
I mean, I think what I would advise everyone that's sort of watching and sort of listening to us is don't sort of think of us as sort of role models or heroes, if you will. We're just young people that had ideas that sort of just made sure that we are in the same position with other young people to put it into action. Action always speaks louder than words. So if you have an idea that's going to help even 10 people or 5 people, put it into practice, because that's the way that you're going to start your journey of caring and sort of making the world a better place.
Thank you, Hamda. Really, really like golden advice. Anas, do you want to? You already gave some very good advice, so I don't know. I don't want to push too much there.
No, man. My teammate Hamda said it beautifully, and just leave it there.
All right. So I think me being a perfectionist and an activist at the same time, sometimes it doesn't really go together. So I agree on what Hamda said. Like really, if you have an idea, and if you have, even if it's a few means, just go for it. Even if it's like with one friend who lives maybe abroad, you have social media, get in contact and do what you can. As you said, like even if it's 1 or 2 people that you whose life you touch, you shouldn't underestimate it, never. So with these beautiful advices, I want to thank Hamda and Enes for joining us today and sharing their expertise, experiences. And I would like to congratulate both of you for dedicating your time and energy into such inspiring projects. Your efforts as the whole Outbreak of Generosity team are a great support to lots of young individuals out there. And keep up with the amazing work, really. And to our audience, thanks for listening in and see you at the next session.
Let's not forget to thank this amazing host also for inviting us and facilitating this talk. It wouldn't been able to be done. And thanks to the technical team behind the scene. You know who you are.
All right, the FEMYSOnow team will be back with another interesting conversation, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Take care.
Alaikum salam.